Alright, so I played a game recently called Murders on the Yangtze River. I would recommend the game. It took a while, as I disliked it from the beginning, but eventually I warmed up to it and was blown away by the end. A fairly well done story mixed together with some real historical facts. What is it about? The Chinese life is difficult, the opium is everywhere, the addiction is rampant and everyone is just barely scraping by, even without the need to fulfill the need for drugs. But that is not all. For there are murders abound, and murderers do not sleep. And so, it's up to the traveling detective Chung and his plucky sidekick Afu to solve the murders, find out the truth, and save the day. So it's a Chinese murder mystery about 19th, maybe 11th century. I didn't actually pay too much attention to that, it's not that important. What did I enjoy? Well, it's a murder mystery. I like those do math. If I were to actually try to talk about it though, I liked how every story had a lot of twists. Some of those were definitely weaker than others, and some of the murders were obvious even earlier than any suspicion came to them, but it's the journey there that I enjoyed so much. Unraveling that web and putting together the whole picture. Especially fun was the case on the ship in that regard. At multiple points, multiple people lie and all of them look suspicious, so figuring out that one was pretty cool. Although my favorite is still definitely the last case, or second to last I guess, the one in the courtroom before you know who gets the spotlight. Aside from that, I like the art. It's a fairly simple anime style, but with a bit of a flair. The clothes are definitely less typical anime style. They've also had some animations and not just stills like a lot of other games. And the in-game sprites were pretty cute. Just chibi little people moseying around all over the place. And I guess that's it. Yeah, that's not much. I struggle to say much without giving away spoilers. I didn't enjoy the resolutions as the people had some developments after the fact. And the emotional payoff was pretty enjoyable, but again, it's spoilers. What did I dislike? So, glaringly obvious problem is the fact that the game is Chinese. Now, that did not come out right. I don't hate Chinese people. What I mean is that the game opens up with a cutscene with English in it, and then starts in Chinese, and as a person who can't read a lick of it, trying to figure out how the hell do I switch the Chinese off, or if that's even an option, yeah, that was something. It's even closed the game, but I've even closed the game at one point, because again, I don't even know what the exit is spelled like. And while I'm at it, the translation is weird. I'm not gonna complain about the misspellings and punctuation, that's not important to me. Or at least it's not a big deal to me, though. The big deal were the names. So the main character is Chang, the sidekick is Afu. Now, sometimes the game spelled them as John and Frankie. And I don't know how exactly that works out, and a similar situation seemed to occur with some other names. It was especially bad once a reporter chick was introduced, because her name was actually awfully similar to one of the suspects. So at times I saw this switch to Frankie, then her name, then a suspect, then it's Afu again, and I just got to a point where I started ignoring names completely. I could not keep up. It was a mess. Another thing is the technical side, and I have to say this. This is a 2D game with minor sprite animation and some animation for the dialogue. There are occasional cutscenes, but they are all not in engine. So, this game, a game like this, it made my PC chug harder than Warframe at times, as well as taking longer to load. And this is actually, it wasn't actually the case early on. It loaded fairly fast the first few cases, but close to the end the loading took multiple minutes at times, and the game full-on froze during dialogue. During the resolution I've had freezes for up to 10 seconds, and I couldn't really alt-tab without more freezing for at least double that. As a memory leak probably. I'm guessing it's not gonna be as noticeable on a machine that is in any way up to date, but if you get a toaster like me, then you might actually struggle to play the later chapters. It's just something to keep in mind. And lastly, the complaint is a fairly insignificant problem actually, but it's the moon logic. So the gameplay is about running around, clicking on stuff, talking to people. Then there are trials where the evidence is presented or a statement is questioned or whatever else. So my problem is that a lot of the time a certain fact needs to be questioned, but it's not completely obvious as to what is the corresponding evidence. The logic is confusing. The game, however, isn't punishing, as extremely generous with autosave. So if a player messes up too many times, they can instantly reload after failure and go right back where they were. That is why it's so minor to me. So overall, I'd say the game is just a pretty damn good game. I'd say I had a lot of more fun with something like Danganronpa or Zero Escape or Rage and Loop. But that's me personally, because those games screw with the player a bit. This game is a lot less about that, and is more upright about everything, I guess, let's call it that, story-wise. It definitely has bigger mass appeal. The start might be a bit rough as characters are fairly annoying, especially that screaming guard. Just, God, what an annoying asshole, screw that guy. But once the game gets going, it definitely gets better. So yeah, it's a solid recommendation.